Hello, 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 and welcome to CDL This Week, episode 4, with me, your host, Camallenn.
And me, Horizontal. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We've got a lot to talk about as we run up to the London home series this next weekend.
Yeah, very excited for that. And a quick thanks to everyone who listened to episode 3 last week. It's starting to get a little bit of progression on all the socials and on the Spotify and on iTunes and everything. So big up to everyone for listening, and hopefully you all enjoy this episode as well. Might as well get straight into it. So we'll kick off with everything that's kind of happened this week since the last podcast.
Yeah.
This time last week. If you want to start us off.
Yeah, well, obviously one of the things that came out since last episode was the stats for the opening weekend, viewership and stuff. Because obviously the partnership with YouTube was a bit of a left field, I guess. Everyone kind of hoped it was just going to be on Twitch again, and then obviously as soon as it's not, everyone kind of worries.
Throws their arms up and everyone's like, "Oh, I want it back on Twitch. I want it on Twitch." But I think YouTube seems to have done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean it peaked at 100, just over 100k viewers. I think most of the games averaged at least 50k.
Yeah, the average viewers overall for the whole weekend was literally a tad under 50k. So it was pretty good going for the first. I know it's the first event, and everyone's like, "Oh God, a new event," and I wouldn't be surprised if we see it drop off a little bit. But for the first event to have it averaging around 50k, even for the bad games, well, we say bad, sorry, the less popular teams, let's not say bad games. I mean, it's still averaged around 50k.
I'd be surprised if it didn't actually pick up a little bit, because we're going into like a tournament style now, so there's kind of a bit more of a, like, as the weekend progresses, there's a bit more on the line, I suppose. People might be a bit more interested in the final, at least, anyway. There's just a bit more like build up.
I guess it just depends who's playing, really. Like if it's obviously Chicago, Dallas, kind of Atlanta. Well, sorry, not Atlanta this weekend, but any other weekend, then I feel like obviously the viewers will pick up. With the obviously at Minnesota, the most viewed game was the Optic versus Chicago, averaging that hit just under 103,000. So you kind of get the gist that Chicago are still the most popular team. Unsurprisingly,
something tells me that the Green Wall is now following Chicago.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend last 2 weekends ago. Yeah, especially for stats wise, and obviously they just take the videos, the game straight off of the live stream and stick them straight on YouTube, so they're up within minutes of the game finishing. So it's good for people just viewing, just trying to view those certain games.
Staying on the viewing side of things, Blizzard's talked about trying to come up with ways to reward fans who watch the stream.
Yes,
and it's something that they're looking into. Personally, I think that's a great idea, because obviously it helps build up viewership. And I'd really love to see if they did something like in CSGO. So at CSGO events, you can earn stickers on your weapons that are related to that event. So I think that'd be a really cool way they could do it. Like if you watch the London event, you get a London specific that you can.
Do you mean like in game? Yeah, so like in game stuff. Be interesting to see if they do kind of out of game stuff. I'm not sure what they could do, but they could give away things for consistent viewers. I mean, we'd definitely be good with the running of winning something then, wouldn't we? Having to spend all the time watching the games.
I think we're fine on earning any in-game stuff.
We should be earning all of it, to be honest, at this point. I think I watched all the live streams from start to finish last 2 weekends ago, so be a bit different for us this weekend, but we'll talk more on that later.
I guess go on. Keeping things on like fixtures and stuff to do with obviously the format and all that. There was a big uproar on, well, mainly by Aches and by a lot of some of the other pros, I think, as well. The fact that FaZe and Huntsman never actually were in a group together and never played in a round one, like in a group stage.
Yes, I don't blame them, and especially I'd be annoyed as the fans as well. Those are the two strongest teams in the game, judging from Minnesota. So you'd be wanting to see them go up against each other, and if you're not likely to see that at events, I think that game will bring in more viewers than any other game.
And I think I can understand why some of the pros were mad. I think some of the things that they were saying, like they were all saying a certain what people, I can't remember. I mean, Aches obviously is one that comes to mind who was complaining a lot, but
That always
people were
happens,
saying
though.
how it's a bit suspicious that the two top teams aren't playing each other as a way to like push viewership, so they have a better chance of getting to the finals each weekend. But I mean, all this kicked off, and there was people showing like a table that showed how many times each team plays each other. But it came out, I think it was within a day or so. The CDL came out and with a statement, and they corrected it. And it was literally just a website mistake.
Yeah, just a website error, and
Which,
Ipex felt like a little bit of a fool, to be honest, because
yeah,
bit of an embarrassment on his part.
I think people jumped the gun a bit, and obviously, like I get the sense that people are just some certain people are trying to find like things wrong with the franchise, and are like being a bit too like presuming the worst at times. But obviously it wasn't great that they made that error and it like they missed that. But they've said that it was a mistake and they're going to make more effort to double check stuff on their website and all that and make sure that it isn't going to happen again.
People will try and find flaws in anything, though. So obviously there was some flaws to do with the overlay stuff last week or whatever, 2 weeks ago. And you can get flaws in a lot of stuff, and there are flaws in the franchising league, but obviously this wasn't one of them, and everyone was in an uproar about it on Twitter. And obviously, as you said, it just came out being that it was a mistake, and I hope everyone felt a little bit silly, to be honest, because like I said, people will just try and find a flaw in anything, even when it's not a legit flaw. So it's,
I think everyone's kind of some people have a bit too much of a negative mindset going into this, like the whole league stuff. 100%. And I mean, as you just mentioned then about the stats and Codcaster and stuff last week, Maven was on the Hard Points podcast, which TP runs.
It's the Break Time Boys, so it's all four of them.
Break Time Boys, yeah, it is.
All four of them, yeah.
And Maven talked a little bit about the Codcaster and all the issues on that, like day one. And I feel like he really opened up about what went wrong and what was going on behind the scenes, which personally filled me with a lot more confidence because it sounds like they're actually heading in the right direction with things.
He mentioned that.
Yeah, he mentioned that there was actually a patch to the colours, the team colours, but he doesn't know why, but it just didn't get pushed through in time for Minnesota. So I mean, hopefully we see that in London.
I wonder if it wasn't fully ready, and then it might have been ready during the event, and they didn't want to mess it up by pushing something through that wasn't ready, and it might have glitched it. So
yeah, I mean, if it was only ready a day before, like during the setup, like the couple of days before, then yeah, they're probably not going to want to push through stuff like that. But they did clear up the fact, which is something that I thought was correct, like the whole player skins and the colours on the leaderboard and stuff is all just for us, the viewers. It's like a skin for the Codcaster, so the players actually don't see any of that. Because I know there was some people I saw on Twitter were like, "Oh, it's a bit unfair when like one of the teams got bright yellow skins or something."
And, it's only a cosmetic for the. Sorry, I get what you mean now. Yeah, it's only a cosmetic for the fans to see. Yeah,
it's only for the viewer.
Yeah, imagine being New York running around in that bright yellow, trying to play slow on Search and Destroy. It's like, there's a guy wearing bright yellow. Easily pick him off.
Yeah, and he like Maven mentioned a few other things how. Because obviously a lot of the people in the behind the scenes, I think, are coming from like a traditional sports aspect, and obviously in that there's a lot more shots of like third person and above the whole pitch and showing like it's a different format, and they thought that's how it should be done, and Maven warned them not to, and we all saw how it happened in map one and the uproar that it caused.
Well, they switched it up pretty quick, didn't they?
Yeah,
and it all looked so much, but like not necessarily the overlay, as we've said, but the actual viewer experience of the gameplay. I thought I was having an aneurysm watching that first map, that hard point on Isaiah Cave. That was awful. It just kept flicking between free cam and third person.
We all felt that. Maybe even said them on the casting desk had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Like to them, they were actually that first map they casted off just the mini map, which is a ridiculous thing for the casters team to have to do. So, but they like TP mentioned how the guys behind the scenes heard the community freak out, and they don't want the community to freak out like that again, and they do want it to work. So, I'm positive going into London. I think I expect to see, like, especially with Codcaster and just production value, there's probably going to be some positive changes.
Well, I hope to
Like,
see some stats up on the top, and
yeah,
to make it easier for us lot, and not just me obviously, but the other guys that go about their business with the statistics stuff. That was obviously, as we've mentioned, I think 2 or 3 times now, that it was a big error, and annoying for us really to not have that ability to, not even just for us, even just any fans, all the 103,000 people that watched that Optic Huntsman game. I mean, everyone wants to know who's doing well, and when you're only showing it at short periods of time, it's hard for the fans to really try and get behind the players who's doing well, and even try and take the piss out of the players that aren't doing so well. But let's keep it.
It was a hell of a game to test stuff on. But yeah, like, obviously moving off things that were wrong, there's a patch has come out since last week, since the opening weekend. MP5 and M4 have been nerfed ever so slightly.
Yeah, I haven't read the patch notes as of yet, so I'm not sure kind of how it works. But I know people. Go on, sorry.
Oh yeah, MP5 has had their headshot multiplier reduced slightly, and I think a bit of the range to 10 mil.
Okay, that's good.
And then M4 has had a slight damage reduction on headshot effectiveness.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it was kind of expected, really. They were the 2 strongest weapons.
Well, we'll see what kind of, if any other guns become viable, like the M13 people were talking about. Maybe even the MP7. I know it's not as speedy as the MP5, so people might not want to be using that, especially if people are still using the MP5. I presume there'll still be the 2 guns in the meta, but we'll have to wait and see what people start using in Minnesota. I haven't seen any scrims this week, so I'm a bit behind if teams have been trying out different guns, but
not sure how it's affected scrims, but I mean it was kind of expected with the 2 main weapons. There's going to be some slight tweaks, I think. So we'll just have to see how it plays out in London and how badly it actually affects anything.
And talking about things being kind of nerfed or switched up, obviously we've been hearing that Metals may have been put on the bench for Toronto.
Yeah, so he was scrimming with their B team instead of Bance, and Bance I think was scrimming a bit with their main team. But obviously, I guess with their teams, like, it's hard to tell if that means anything or not. Because Metals didn't do too bad, I don't think.
He was positive in all 3 game modes. So I wonder if it was a communication issue. Obviously, with him being Spanish, there might have been some flaws in the communication between all the players. But I think Bance is a world class player. He's been a world class player since kind of Black Ops 3, when him and Splice really started to come into the limelight. But I like Metals as well. I think Metals is a really good player. But that, like we said last week, this is going to be the first team we're going to see a switch up on, and it's looking like we already have seen.
We did predict this, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. With all those 5 substitutes, it was always going to happen, really. We weren't sure if they even knew their starting roster, and to be honest, it looks like they definitely weren't sure. But talking about rosters, unless you've got something to finish up on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first match is against London Royal Ravens this next weekend, so we'll see pretty early on what their roster is and if it has actually changed up or not.
Yes.
But it'll be interesting.
Talking about London there.
It, so.
Might as well to shift it over to the event that's going to be kicking off this weekend, this Saturday, over at the Copper Box in London. Obviously, it's switched up from last week. Last week was obviously was it last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. At Minnesota, we had it as every team plays 2 games and gets 10 points per win, whereas now we're into the tournament style, into the Swiss format in the groups. So how many games is it we get? I think we get 8. I think it's is it 13 games? I think it is over the weekend. 12 or 13 games, I think. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good weekend, not just for the fact that we're there, but the tournament style is going to bring a completely different feel compared to last week. which I'm really
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
for.
well, it will do, and it is 13 games they play.
Okay.
Well, they've played across the whole weekend, but yeah, I think it's going to bring in the dynamic that everyone loves, like the actual tournament style. I think people do enjoy that a lot more. It means there's more on the line because you can get knocked out. Obviously, as well, we said they all played 2 games last week, so the points kind of didn't really it gave us a rough setting on the leaderboard, but I think after this first tournament we'll kind of see things shook up a little bit and start to see who's the stronger team and who's starting to take a bit of a lead on the leaderboard.
Yeah, to a degree. Obviously, there's 4 teams not there.
Yeah,
It's Seattle, Optic, Atlanta, and who's the last team that's not there? I'm not sure. I can't remember who the last one is. But yeah, anyway, so obviously you get a good feel for who's the better teams and who's not. But I think that Chicago will probably take it, but I would not sleep on Paris again. I really think Paris have a very good chance of winning this. They are a very good team. Going back and watching some of their gameplay, they look very, very strong. Those 3 Aussies obviously have a very good dynamic working together. So I'm not looking forward to Paris because obviously rivals the London team, but I do think Paris are going to be quite a good team to. They're going to be a hard team to beat. In the easy way to put it.
They are. I mean, we can even if we could just get straight into predictions. Obviously, Huntsman definitely is obviously going to be up there for probably being in the final, I think. And I would agree. I think it's either going to be Legion or if Ravens have got if the Ravens we saw in that opening game, if they can play like that against Paris, then we might be in for a shot there.
It goes into a double elimination bracket, doesn't it? So
yeah, so you've got
the 2 teams,
2 group stages.
Yeah, each team plays twice.
So we've got 2 matches in each group. The winners play each other. The losers play each other. And then the loser of the winner's round plays the winner of the loser's round.
Yes.
And then winner of winners, and the winner of the
the other game. Play each other.
It gets very cool.
And then it goes into a double elimination, and then obviously the team coming from what you call the losers bracket obviously have to win 2 best-of-5s in the final to win. A little bit confusing, especially if you don't really follow esports too much, but once you watch a few of these, you'll start to get the hang of it. But we might as well kick it off with the Empire versus Surge in Group A.
Yes.
Who do you think is going to be taking that?
I mean, Empire didn't. They had a tough weekend, but I would definitely say they're the stronger of the 2 there. Surge just didn't quite perform well enough, and I think Empire, they performed well. They just had a tough matchup for the opening weekend. So I'd probably say Empire is going to take that match.
I think this is going to be a very, very good and interesting game. I like Seattle. I think they're a very good team. I think they would have gone away. They've probably going to have worked on their search and destroy. But then again, if that really plagues them and it goes game 5, Empire have a strong search and destroy unit that will, if Seattle haven't worked on their gameplay, Dallas will absolutely storm through them. So I'm probably going to agree with you and go with Empire, but I would say 3-2. I think we definitely didn't see the best of Dallas, but we definitely didn't see the best of Seattle either.
I think it comes down to if Seattle's got if they've improved their search and destroy, I think you're right, it could go to 3-2. If it hasn't, you might only see a 3-1.
I think if Seattle win a search and destroy, they win the series. If they win either of them, they win the series because it only means they've got to take 2. Well, I say only, but they've only got to take 2 of the respawns, 2 out of the 3, plus 1 of the search and destroys. I think that. But I do think Empire. I will go with Empire, but I do think that will probably be one of the games of the week. I think that'll be a very, very good game. Then we move on to Huntsman versus the LA Gorillas. So Chicago versus LA. Yep. Who have you got?
I mean, Huntsman, straight off. I
Yeah.
mean, as we said last week, I think Gorillas we both aren't very sure on them. They kind of didn't really convince us. Huntsman just they look good. They're playing good. So I think Huntsman take that, no problem.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest. They are a far superior team. Gorillas, like we said, they look good, but we just weren't convinced with them at Minnesota. But I'm sure they've gone away over the last couple of weeks and they're going to have worked on the gameplay. But I did see something on Twitter. I didn't look too deeply into it, but I saw that the Huntsmen beat Atlanta 6-1 in a scrim series.
Oh,
So to me, that's a big old statement. I know it's only scrims, and obviously it's only online, but that's a big statement to make going out and beating them 6-1 in
especially
scrims.
after last weekend.
Yeah, especially with how good Atlanta looked. But no, I agree with you on that one. I'd say Chicago take that. I would say probably 3-0, maybe 3-1 if Gorillas come out hot in one of maybe the domination or something, But
domination's kind of the only one that could
it's
be.
It's a flip-flop game mode, isn't it?
It's a bit unpredictable.
Yeah, I don't see them LA really doing much. And then obviously now we're moving to Group B. You've got Paris Legion versus the New York Subliners. Who have you got in that one?
I mean, Paris would be my go-to there. I think New York really didn't show up last weekend, and Paris really did show up. Like we've talked about Kismet, and Paris really have proven themselves to be one of the top end teams, and I think they'll just come in and unless New York's improved a lot, which I don't think they will have improved enough to beat Paris, but I think Paris will take that.
I would agree. I don't see the Subliners coming out and playing as bad as they did in Minnesota. On paper, they are an incredibly strong team, and I could easily see them taking this off of Paris, just on the fact that Paris may come into it thinking these guys are shit. We're gonna roll them. But I would probably go out and say 3-1 to Paris, but I could see a 3-2 going either way. Could see it going Game 5 either way.
I think we might see a Game 5 there. I think if Paris are looking good, they'll take it 3-2. And as you said, Subliners could come out and they've improved a lot and really show us what they're worth, and it goes the other way. But I'm leaning more to Paris.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, I just don't see the Subliners playing as bad as they did last week. And then we've got the home team in the Ravens, London Royal Ravens versus the Toronto Ultra. And again, who have you got in this one?
I mean, Ultra looking good. I think I'm hoping that the Ravens come out and they play like they did the first game last weekend and actually show us their full potential, and they'll come out and I think they could smoke Ultra. Obviously, we've said we don't know what their lineup's going to be like at the moment. They might switch things up, and if they do, that might go against them. But I think I've got Ravens to win against Ultra.
I agree. I could easily see, but the thing is, I could easily see it being a 3-0 Ravens or a 3-2 Ravens. I don't see Toronto taking it, but I could see them pushing it to a Game 5, potentially a Game 4. Definitely got the Ravens winning it, just not sure in what kind of format. I'm not sure in what kind of score that they're going to take that. Who would you say is your player to look out for this weekend, though? Because obviously we've got some big old names, especially in Dallas, Seattle, Chicago. Even the guys coming out of the Subliners, you've got some big old names in COD there.
Yeah. Who do I think is going to stand out the most? I think if Kismet's playing as well as he was last weekend, he's going to be a big player over the weekend. I mean, Huntsman, you kind of expect them to have some top players. Yeah,
you expect all 5 of them to come out all guns blazing, really.
Yeah. I mean, Summer Surge, was it Octane last week?
Yeah, he didn't have the best weekend. He played well, but obviously he lacked a little bit. He was a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, some of those guys could perform a lot better, so there's a possibility they might come out and actually surprise people and show us what they should be doing. Could be ones to watch there. I don't know who you've got as.
I've got a couple. I've got a couple lined up in my head. First of all, I'd say Dens. He was very, very much slept on last week. He played incredibly well in both his games, and I would definitely watch out for him. If you've got him in your fantasy, he's on your bench, I would highly recommend sticking him into that AR slot. He will absolutely fry this weekend. I can almost guarantee that. And I would also say Shotzi. He had an absolute stinker last week.
He did.
But he is a Halo world champion. He's a world champion esports in first-person shooters. So, just because he's had a bad week one week, I would probably still keep him in your fantasy team, because I can't really see him performing that badly again this weekend. They got not the easiest group. I mean, might have to be playing the Huntsman again. More than likely going to be playing the Huntsman again. And obviously Seattle's a tough lineup, but I just don't see him having another weekend. He'll have gone away and he'll have really reviewed his performance and kind of put in his head that he needs to pick it up and get better. I would also say all of the subliners. I said, I don't see him playing that badly again. I would especially watch out for Attach. I think Attach is going to be back to his good old self. He won't be dropping any more donuts in Search and Destroy. So I would definitely look out for him as well. Those would be my 3 picks for this week. Would be them 3. And then who did you say you had winning the whole thing? I think we're on the same boat on this one.
In my head, I'm saying Huntsman. Obviously, I would love it to be Ravens.
Yes.
I think the 2 teams you'll see coming out of Group A is going to be Empire and Huntsman.
I agree. I agree.
And then my hope is that it's also for Group B. It's Paris and London, Legion and Ravens.
That's what I think it will be as well. I actually think Ravens will beat the Paris this week. I think they'll be out for if they both win their first game. I think.
I mean, if the final is Huntsman London, I'd like that. That would be amazing. Obviously, home team in the finals. But I think Huntsman are just going to perform the best off what we've already seen. But obviously, who knows? Anything could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a Ravens versus Paris Legion final. That would be unreal, just for the fans to be, hurling all the abuse over at Paris. But yeah, I mean, for viewership and for the best level of Call of Duty, I'd love to see the Ravens versus Huntsman for the mixture of the fans and the level of Call of Duty. I
mean, obviously for the home crowd as well. We saw how much the Minnesota crowd got behind Rocker when they were playing their last game. So you can just imagine what the London crowd's going to be like if Ravens make it to the final.
Well, I mean, any Ravens game, really, everyone's going to be going mental for it. So, I mean, everyone will be enjoying every game, I think. I mean, compared to last year, not even compared to last year, likewise to last year, everyone was just shouting and screaming at every game, chanting and everything. So I'm expecting much of the same this year. But I'm not going to lie, it seems like we've got through everything quite quickly this week.
We have.
There wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It's been a bit of a quiet week.
It has. I think a lot of the teams have just gone a bit quiet, working on their scrims. Obviously, a lot of them will be working quietly away, especially the teams that didn't quite perform as well as they probably wanted to.
And there's quite a few going on this weekend. I mean, even the Ravens themselves having a good first game and a poor second game. We've got subliners, Gorillas, Surge, and Dallas. I mean, all of them have got to be working on kind of what they did last week. Into it,
hoping to actually prove how good they are.
Yes, I agree. And obviously, for anyone wondering, stats this weekend for the London week will be very much so reduced, as both myself and Horizontal will be in attendance of the event.
We will.
So if you're expecting the high level of stuff that we put out last week, you can still expect it. just not as much stuff as in detail. So there won't be map scores. There won't be map. There won't be map scores. There won't be map stats. We'll be doing overall stats the morning after. We'll be waking up and smashing that out for a couple hours before the Sunday starts, and then the same on the Monday. So expect some of that.
The stats will be there. They'll be just as good, like visually, just slightly condensed and reduced, I guess.
Reduced and not at the time of the games, but it will still be out there. The big stat sheet will obviously be updated on the Monday after the event, as I probably won't have time to try and fill all that in early morning on the Sunday. So it will all be done on the Monday, and we'll be putting out our predictions this week over on the Twitter. So expect to see that. But I mean, if you haven't got much else to say, I mean, we're probably going to wrap up a fairly short episode here. It's been about half an hour long.
There's a little bit, I guess, on challenges. Obviously, we had the first challenges weekend, and there was a lot of teams in Minnesota, and obviously lots of teams performed differently. But I've heard that Parasite and his team have all split up.
Yes.
And they're all going separate ways. I think it's the same for a lot of other amateur teams. Obviously, with amateur, there's a lot of more moving around.
Yeah, a lot of chopping and changing.
Same contracts as there. I think Parasite's team, most of them have announced either they're a free agent or they've found a team, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's only Spacely they hadn't heard anything from. But I also heard that Stamino got dropped. I'm not sure who he was on. I think he was he on the Hybrid Black team? I'm not 100% sure, but I heard that he got dropped, and it's potentially Ferro that's replacing him on their team. So it's another little bit of information to look out for. But obviously, it's only a 32 team Challengers event this week, so it's a very small compared to the Minnesota one. Again, I would probably say going into it that Singularity will obviously be the favourites, especially with them sticking with their team and obviously winning the Minnesota event and it being on home soil for them. So
I think I mean, as well as like with challenges and stuff, we talked about changes to the main league, but it'd be nice to see if they do make more of an effort to show some challenges. As it's a smaller pool, so there's going to be less games. It might be a bit easier for them to fit those in around some of the London games. I mean, it'd be nice, I think, for the stream, like for the challenges themselves and the teams to get some of that airtime.
They need to have a stream for the challenges, in my opinion.
They do. I mean, we talked about it last week. How I think they should have a separate stream for challenges if they really want it to take off. But it'd be interesting. Hopefully, we get some changes and some additions for challenges to make it.
I think we will do. I wonder if it was just because it was such a big tournament that they didn't know what to do. Whereas this, obviously, it's a much more condensed system. So we might get a little stream, get the Call of Duty Challenges YouTube channel, and hopefully see some stuff on there. I probably won't be watching too much of the challenges while I'm there. I'll definitely be sat in my seat on the main stage. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Only got a few more days left until that kicks off.
We have lots to prep.
Yeah, lots to prep. But yeah, like I said, have you got anything else to add to this fairly shortish episode?
Yeah, bit of a short one, but I think we've covered everything that's come out this week and the run up to London. Obviously, next week we'll have the whole London event to talk about.
Yeah, lots of games to cover, lots of stats to cover. So we'll probably, definitely make up for the shortness of this episode with probably, I'd say, another hour and a half long episode next week, like last week was. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Obviously, we'll be on social media, so if you want to share your thoughts with us leading up to London or throughout the London event, obviously you can share that with us over on CDL this week on Twitter, or with myself, camallenn on Twitter, or HZL_G on Twitter. And then we'll be back next week, obviously, at 8 p.m. on Monday, the 10th of February. If you want to catch episode 5, obviously, like we said, we'll be reviewing the London event and everything that happened that weekend.
And just one little thing I'm sure we'll have this week, there will be some predictions out on Twitter for you guys to vote on.
Yes.
For at least the 4 opening matches on the Saturday. So
And
make sure you keep an eye
I'll
out for
definitely
them.
be putting some out for every game that gets announced further on in the week as we progress through the bracket.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. If
you're
we're all
listening
done.
on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a like or a comment. Much appreciated. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit a follow. Feel free to even leave a review if you want. But if you guys share this and get it around, it means a lot. And just hope you guys are enjoying these episodes.
Yeah, like you said, if you definitely want to share the podcast out, we'd definitely appreciate more people obviously tuning in, not necessarily live, but just listening to our podcast as we hope to get better over the coming weeks. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will obviously catch some of you at London. If you want to come and say hi, then do. Not that we're famous, but if you want to come and say hi, hang out with us at the weekend, we'll be there front row, I would have thought, or close to the front row as possible.
Just
so
look for the bearded guy with a camera, and I'm sure you'll find us all.
Exactly. Right, well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and yeah, we'll catch some of you at London, and if not, we will catch you at 8 p.m. next Monday. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.